Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business. Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson. Have you ever wondered what's going on in a decision maker's world? Have you ever wished you could read the minds of the people that hire you? Well, today's podcast should be quite enlightening. We have Pugh Markham from Meeting Professionals International on our show. Welcome, Lori.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so excited to have you here, and we're going to read your bio here in a second, but tell us a bit about how you landed on the doorsteps of MPI. Was that like a dream job for you?
My career has taken some interesting turns over the last 14 years. If you would have asked me, say, 5 years ago, if I thought I would be at MPI, I would probably say no. The reason I say that is my degree is actually in advertising.
Okay.
And when I finished school, I worked at an agency, and under that PR umbrella, they had me planning a lot of the events. Well, then the crash happened, and a lot of our clients were home builders and restaurants, and a lot of my friends were losing their jobs quickly. And I thought, well, I like this whole event gig. I'm pretty bossy. I think I can handle this.
See, now I could do the events thing because I'm pretty bossy too.
Yeah, I love it. So I ended up working at the Regional Chamber of Commerce in Jacksonville doing events.
Right.
And really got to do some cool things, some events in China and locally in Jacksonville. And then there was a company that we hired to do a lot of our decorating and design work. And I thought, you know what, I want to try my hand at that. And so I worked for a production company doing everything from staging to audio to decor, furniture, coordination, everything.
Wow.
And actually learned how to call shows and get on the production side of things as well. And then I tried my hand about 2 years as a wedding planner at a resort. Maybe I want to try the hotel side of event planning.
Yeah.
I learned pretty quickly. I was not cut out to do the wedding.
The mothers of the brides, the mobs were driving you crazy, and
Yes.
the bridezillas themselves, perhaps. Well,
Yeah.
we are glad to have you back here in the meetings industry,
Yeah.
and I think it's really interesting because you have this knowledge of everything that goes on in a meeting. For instance, why a speaker would never want to run over time is because that is like a domino effect, and there are a million other little pieces of the puzzle that get affected by that, right?
Absolutely. So when I started at MPI, I was really looking at our show flows, and I knew the technical production, but then it really started to think about, how are we going to weave the speakers in? What we really call creating the narrative for the event, and every single little thing has to fall in line with that. From
the narrative. Okay.
For everything.
That's good. So narrative is kind of where we'll begin, but let me go ahead and read your bio because I think this is really interesting. Lori, now actually you have a new name, Pugh Markham, because you just got married. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Has 14 years of experience in the meetings and events industry on both the planner and supplier side of the business. As lead manager, events, programs, and production with Meeting Professionals International, she is responsible for managing meeting and event production along with speaker and session management. As part of MPI's Global Events Live portfolio, Lori and her team are responsible for education at conferences such as MPI Smart Monday, at IMEX America, MPI World Education Congress, MPI Sunshine Education Summit, and MPI European Meetings and Event Conference. That is a lot in your portfolio. Are you just constantly is it high drama always because you're just finished one and now starting the next, or are they overlapping? How does it even work to have so many events on the go?
Yeah, well, some of them do overlap, but in different stages. So, I try to start early in January for planning for our October IMEX event, just figuring out, again, what that narrative, the theming is, identifying some speakers. That's a smaller event for us in terms of the number of people we source. But WEC, we really do a lot of chunks in advance. So our planning cycle is about 18 months out from the next WEC. So we kind of have monthly tasks where we know where we need to be.
Right.
Things pop up and happen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
Right. So let's talk about that from the speaker's standpoint. So there are some events that they might be hired over a year in advance, right?
Mhm.
But and we're seeing the industry get shorter and shorter timelines right now. So talk about what might be happening that would have you, what's the shortest time frame you might book a speaker on?
Well, we have what we call rounds. So for WEC, I kind of start with my A-list round choice of speakers. We do a call for proposals, and then I reach out to negotiate with them and check availability. And some speakers we can afford, and some we can't. We try to negotiate where we can, but some speakers we also try to sell sponsorship for. So if there's some I want to bring in. So then once I talk to the speaker and they seem interested, and I'm very transparent, I've got to make sure I can get a sponsor.
Right.
I get it into the sales kit. Now, sometimes sales kits, they don't necessarily sell until 4 months prior to the event. So I hate to make a speaker wait on hold, and it's only a handful that I have to do that with, but it's just
but if you're trying to book Simon Sinek, you need some money. And so you're waiting for a sponsor to commit to that money. And is that, do I have that right?
So for concurrent education, yes, we do have a set budget for main stage, but even our concurrent sessions have 250 people in them.
They're big.
They're not small. Right. Exactly. So this is particularly the case for workshops. So things that people will sign up for a 4 or 6 hour course. That's usually additional. A speaker obviously is going to want more money for that, and cause us to need a sponsor.
Well, this is so fascinating. I'm really happy that we're able to just kind of dig inside of the behind the curtain here, because I think a lot of speakers have ideas around. I bet you any money, most speakers think that MPI doesn't pay their speakers, when in fact we're already dissolving that myth. So there are budgets for certain things. There are probably a lot of slots that you don't pay for. What don't you pay for?
We try to accommodate travel for our concurrent education speakers.
Okay.
Yeah, that meaning hotel and airfare, and then full conference registration. But there typically is not a speaker fee paid for that unless we're looking at a workshop.
Okay.
Now, main stage is a little bit different. Miranda Van Broek on my team, she works on main stage for WEC, and a lot of the speakers that we have they've connections that our boards have. I mean, we've had Deepak Chopra before. I promise you, we can't afford Deepak. So, we leverage our partnerships. And then a lot of times our speakers, and they want to get in front of this audience. It's 2,500 meetings, essentially. So there is a lot of demand for people to want to be on
this stage.
Yeah. So
gotcha. I get it. But it doesn't hurt to ask if there's a budget, just because there might be one where we don't think automatically that there is. But yes, of course, MPI is huge in terms of getting your message out to a lot of people who could potentially book you. So this is the dream job for the speaker as well. Okay, so let's talk about getting that dream job in a way that is something that is pleasant for all involved.
Yeah.
So your first way of finding speakers is likely through relationships and referrals, is it?
So we have speakers that have spoken for us in the past, and we hold on to that statistical data on satisfaction.
Okay.
So we have some of those, but we still go out with a call for proposals.
And that's for the main stage too, is it? The call for proposals?
Is.
Okay.
Correct.
Good. Good to know. Okay, so past speakers. And then your call for proposals, that really gives anyone a shot, doesn't it?
Correct. We like to see new people submit a proposal. We put very specific guidelines of what we're looking in that. We tell you is most frustrating, though, is
What?
that what is most frustrating for a person booking speakers
Mm-hmm.
is we ask for very specific, it needs to fall in this theme, or because we have continuing education clock hours we have to account for.
Right.
Sometimes we will get submissions about things. I got a submission, and I review every single one about how to plan a funeral.
Did you read the proposal? Like, hello. Okay. So obviously you want people to read what you've written and follow the guidelines. And if they're not a good fit, then don't submit.
That's right.
How
That's
about
right.
that for a little tagline? If you're not a good fit, then don't submit.
Exactly. We had 450 submissions last year, and I review all of them. And I would 100 of them to 150 were completely irrelevant to what we were looking for, and it can be very frustrating.
Okay, so let's talk about you're going to look for relevance in terms of fitting your theme, and also very clearly what are the meeting professionals. Now you have to walk both sides of that, don't you? Because you have your supplier members and your meeting professional members. So how do you balance what kind of topics are going to be happy for both?
So we request topics for both sides, planner and supplier. And to be honest with you, a lot, just like myself, most people in the meeting and events industry have done both, have worked for a supplier and have been a quote unquote true planner. So some sessions can be dual. Some you do want more targeted to certain types of planners or to suppliers.
Okay.
It's a good mix.
Okay, so what kind of topics might you be looking for, say, on this? You're pouring through, are you pouring through the proposals right now, the ones that you've gotten this year?
Yes.
What's catching your eye right now? What kind of topics? Just broadly, like,
Sure. So one thing that we're very focused on this year, and we've always thought about it before, but really diving deep into brain-friendly education. So even if a topic is very dynamic, we really cannot have 60 minutes of straight lecturing. The brains just aren't wired for that. So we included in our call for proposals, add some best practices and some videos on what we're looking for. Typically what it is 10-minute, I call chunking it. So that would be 10 minutes of perhaps lecture, and then to break that up with either a story about how it would relate, or a Q&A, or a group talk, and then coming back to the lecture.
So like changing it up every 10 minutes, that's so that's what we're talking about in terms of the style of the delivery. But what about the actual topics? Like what topics are catching your attention?
So most of our planners, when we tell speakers to submit, think that this planner has probably 10 to 15 years in the industry, if not more. So nothing very basic. We would rather have a very in-depth discussion about the topics. But some of the buckets, as we call them, are career development, corporate social responsibility, CSR, that's the food and recycling and community-based activities, experiential education design, leadership and change management, legal and compliance, and not just legal and compliance broad, but as it relates to the meetings industry. Project management, safety and security, which is huge in our industry. I mean, most of the attacks you see are taking on or take place where there's an event going on. Where there's and sales and marketing, strategic planning, technology, and then just trends within our industry.
So it feels like those are a lot of buckets. And so I suspect that most everybody who's listening in today could probably fit themselves into one of those buckets. But the key is for them to show you in the proposal how it's a match for MPI, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Definitely how it would relate to them. So let me give you an example. Let's say change management, or and specifically like when a hotel would brand with another hotel and that affects the industry, or safety and security, cybersecurity at events or registration. So it really needs to be focused in on
Really specific. Okay.
exactly.
And then for your big main stages, do you do more 10,000-foot looks at, change in general and then how that affects our industry, but maybe not so micro, a little bit more macro, or?
Yes. So we had, and typically, last year, our general sessions were only 45 minutes long.
Love that.
Yes. And there was one in the morning and one at the end of the day. So you could kind of bookend what you had learned. And we had Mel Robbins as speakers. And so she spoke, and I think it was only maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then she did a longer class later in the day. So, if it wasn't your cup of tea, you didn't have to attend the longer session.
Right. I bet it was standing room only, because did she do the 5-second rule?
Yes, it was standing room only. She was fabulous.
So good. So good. And, I saw her speak at NSA a few years ago, and she didn't have the 5-second rule yet. What a difference having that level. And one of the things I talk to my clients about is picking a lane. Well, that lane has been a lane paved in gold for Mel Robbins, because it gave her that much more clarity and it gave her message that much more impact. Like, so good, right? Such an easy idea, but so good.
And you could apply that to anything. And then, of course, any of these topics, really.
Yeah.
So it was relatable. We've also had more inspirational stories on. So Liz, I can't think of her last name, but Homeless to Harvard, she spoke as well. And so you see some of the bigger, but some more inspirational takeaways.
Yeah. So maybe kind of more motivation / inspiration on those bookenders, and then deeper dives in the middle, right?
Correct. And this year we're focusing on shared experiences. So you'll see a lot more engagement design and in our main stage selections of speakers.
Oh, very cool. So would you say, so you said 45 minutes, would you say though that keynotes are getting shorter and shorter because of TED Talks? I mean, everybody loves a nice quick message, right?
Yes. A lot of times we'll have those 3 TED Talk, we call them flashpoint speakers that will for 15 or 10 to 15 minutes. Now that we've gone down to a little bit of a smaller general sessions, we may only have 1 to 2. But yeah, it's just shorter, sweet, quick takeaways. And then we usually book them for a master class is what we call it later that day.
Love it. I love it. And that's an idea that I think all speakers should be pitching anyway, is I can come up and tee up this idea in a keynote for whatever length of time, and then I can do a deep dive later. That really shows a lot of value from a speaker for you, does it not?
Absolutely. And even post-event, for instance, Mel, I think she put her website name up there. People could go and select, but she sends these weekly emails or follow-up notes, and it just helps to continue that message through the year, so they really feel that they've made a relationship or, with a speaker, they're more tied to it.
Awesome. And of course, who wouldn't want to send a weekly email to all of these people who are planning meetings for it? There's a reason why she's the most, one of the busiest speakers in the world. Okay. Right. Question for you. Your day, I'm thinking about how often, the minute I said I worked for a speakers bureau, and I used to actually book speakers for the AMA when I lived in Dallas as well. It just was like a deluge. Whoosh, people just wished you. So talk a little bit about what your day might look like in terms of communication with speakers. Is it like how many voicemails might you get? How many emails might you get in a day? Just I want people to understand what it feels like to sit in your shoes. Sit in your chair.
I would say we get, or our department, I would say, gets probably 5 to 10 a day. There's a standard email that we reply to them, because to keep up with all the submissions or email inquiries we get, we tell them what the process is to get on the list, so that when we do have call for proposals, they'll be notified of that.
Good.
So they create an account on our MPI website. You don't have to be a member for that. It's just for a way for us to flag your account. And then a lot of times I just have to tell them, hey, our call for proposals is closed for this event.
Yeah.
We'd love to work with you in the future. One thing that's very, very important, and I just don't see how speakers would get business without this, but I will ask to see a video. Let's just say it's a great session description, and I want to see a video of them speaking, and they don't have any videos.
Yes. So no video is a deal breaker for you.
Yes. It's a deal breaker for sure. And it doesn't have to be on their topic. I mean, what we find is anybody can write a great description, but can they be dynamic on stage? So even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes on a different topic, it still helps.
Okay. So any kind of video would help you see. You just want to see that they can hold their own on the stage.
Absolutely.
And does it matter for you if you're hiring main stage? Do you want to see them on a big stage? Or would you be okay with seeing them in a small training room?
I'm personally not opposed to seeing it in a small training room also.
Okay. That's interesting.
Video is so much more important. A lot of times people will send over a long laundry list of recommendations that have come from people, but I don't know if that's from their cousin Susan or so video is more important.
All right. So video is key. That's really good. Okay. So you're getting 5 to 10 emails a day about this. What about your phone? Is your phone ringing a lot? Does that calm down some?
Yeah, it's calmed down. I would say maybe once or twice a week, which isn't bad at all.
Okay.
I see a lot of random messages on LinkedIn, and I get that's where you put some stuff, but that when I'm looking for a speaker, that's not where I go.
Okay, that's interesting to know because I think a lot of people who are focused on business topics, they probably are spending some time on LinkedIn. And I know people are getting booked from LinkedIn, but you're saying that doesn't necessarily work for you.
Yeah, it doesn't. Because sometimes the caliber of what I'm seeing is not with a lot of experience. We also have a partnership with eSpeakers. Mm-hmm. So I do look on the eSpeakers website. And in fact, I work with the president there to send out a customized email.
That's how I got your email, and that's how this whole thing came about, because Joe and Dave and I have been buddies now for years. I love your saying that because lots of people have eSpeakers memberships and are thinking that, what's eSpeakers done for me lately? So I love that you're saying that you could find somebody there. And have you gone out? Okay, let me ask you this. If you are searching for a particular topic that has not come to you, what will be your first, second, and third way of looking for someone?
So I do look on eSpeakers, one of the main ones. We work with a host committee in the city that we are putting on the conference. So for instance, WEC is in Toronto this year. So we have committees.
Woohoo, that's my backyard. Yeah.
It's beautiful. I went on a site visit and just absolutely love it.
Awesome.
It's been great. And then we'll reach out to the committee, the host committee, to see if they have local recommendations. We like to showcase, for two reasons. We want to give the flair of the city that we're going to. I mean, they've made a financial investment to bring this conference there, showcase it as much as possible. And then travel costs as well. It's hard to fly someone from South Florida,
it makes more sense to do if you can cut back on your travel. Where are you having your event in Toronto?
At the convention center there.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I'm very excited for you, and I hope that some of my local clients and compadres around there will get booked to do that. That's really exciting news. So, what is something that a speaker might do to just really turn you off?
Emailing me multiple times if they don't hear back in a day. I do try to answer all my emails in 24 hours, but if you email and call and then wait 3 hours and email again, then it's usually,
delete.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course, a lot of times, and I understand speakers have businesses to run. I completely get that. And very honest and transparent about what we can do in terms of reimbursement and travel. And most people are very nice and they understand. And then some people are not so happy with it. I wish I could give every speaker $100,000 each time they speak, but you just can't. You
For
can't.
For
Yeah.
sure, you have budgets. So, do you guys ever use speakers bureaus as a part of your planning process?
For the main stage, yes, we will use speaker bureaus. We have some relationships with some that just really continue to understand what it is we're looking for,
Yeah.
and and we'll bring someone that's a good fit. What is infuriating, and I can't say that I deal with this too often, but when you're very clear with the speaker bureau about what budget you have, and then they send you all these fabulous suggestions, and you said, oh yeah, see if they're available, and then they're like, oh, by the way, it's 3 times your budget.
That's like the Property Brothers, they take you through the beautiful house and then they say, you can't afford this house. What's the
Right.
point, right?
Yeah.
I hear you. Okay, so if you are a bureau and you're listening to this, send budget-worthy items that really make sense, and don't expect that the speaker's going to negotiate the budget. If they're a $30,000 speaker, that's what their day is worth. So why would they negotiate? Although I think they might for MPI. That's probably something that they should be thinking about. Okay. So let's say for speakers who are just starting out, they may not be ready to apply for you just yet. What we want to say is that they probably need a video, and a good solid video, before they could be contenders. And what other words might you say of encouragement to them? You've probably seen lots of speakers who not a lot of people knew, and one thing can just really change everything for them, can't it?
So really, I don't want to say using buzzwords in the description, but really crafting that description. Don't just say, here's my website, here's what I speak on, because it's just too broad for what we're looking for. So if they could take that description and say, I don't know, leadership as it would relates to managing an event team, really scripting that. Now, don't script it for me in a description and then you get on site and
do something else
and
do
exactly.
your same old. And in terms of being an expert versus a generalist, which is more appealing to you?
So we have a lot of people within our industry that are members that have 20, 25 years. And we a lot of times look for them. We look for industry experts sometimes versus professional speakers, only if it's very, niche of what they're looking for.
Okay.
And it's something that's more facilitation versus, just a straight type keynote. So those would be the difference of what we're looking for there.
Gotcha.
It varies. It's not to say that, one of the best speakers that I think I've worked with, and I think I got him from eSpeakers, his name is David Averin. And
he's my buddy.
All right.
Yeah, shout out to David Averin.
He's fabulous. He really, I don't think he was that familiar with our industry, but he was able to craft it. He gets fabulous scores and very easy to work with. But he really made an effort to get to know our audience and to think about how it related to them, which was very, very important.
You know what? Okay, that really leads us in a direction of the whole customization effort. So let's say that you'll do what David Averin did and really get to know the audience. And we talk a lot over here about making it about them and not you, right? That's something that is quite appealing. What are some other things that a speaker might do on site that you think are either great or not great? We've already talked about going over time. That's a big no-no, right?
Right. Absolutely. Just because as a planner, you have a tight turnaround. Coming from the production AV world as well, we used to have only 15-minute turns in between sessions. And when I came on board, you got to have 30 minutes because you got to have the next speaker check in and yada, yada. So yes, on time. I do an hour-long coaching call, probably, I would say 30 to 45 days prior to the event. Over all details.
One-on-one?
One-on-one.
Wow, that's a lot of speakers.
Yeah. Well, I have a great team. It's not just me. But
okay, good.
Yes. And to go through, again, the audience demographic, to talk about what their AV needs are. But if I have that call with you and we go through AV needs and then you get on site and you ask for
More stuff. Yeah. That's going to
And
cost you money. Yeah.
right.
Okay.
That can be tough.
Okay. So no last minute changes.
Mhm.
Good customization.
Mhm.
Don't go over time. What else? What else is important to you?
I would say for me on site is when a speaker it has a very calm feel about them because there's
Mm,
things that are just chaos on site, and when you see a speaker kind of anxious about certain things that you know you've gone over, it just
right.
a little or they get anxious and they kind of yell at the AV tech. That makes me nervous.
Okay, that's really good because really our goal is to be the person who walks into it cool as a cucumber. I'm a professional. I've done this before. And sure, there's whirling dervishes going on all around us, but we're kind of calm in the center of the storm. So that makes you feel better because that translates to how they're going to perform on stage.
Right, right. Absolutely. And then we are also working to, help our speakers in terms of providing a confidence monitor. I was
Yes.
teaching a class, and the way the room was set up, I couldn't see the slide on the screen. And I thought, oh man, I'm really, standing in someone else's shoes right now. It would be so much better if I had this confidence monitor.
And
So,
you know what? The bigger, the better. Those things are the best things since sliced bread. They really are. And also, the big timing is right next to that, right? So
exactly.
there's no reason for you to go over because you can see your time. Does it? And it counts backwards, and then
Mhm.
you're at zero. So that's
Yeah.
maybe a little unnerving, but it's there. And then your own screen. So there's no need to turn your back to the audience and look at the screen because it should be right before you
Right.
in a good production, let's say.
Exactly. So we've been trying to allocate funds to make the experience really good for the speaker as well. Because I can tell you, if I've spent all year, sourcing for this event, and it's a large part of my review, it could crash and burn if there's a kind of choke moment for the speaker. So whatever I can do to accommodate,
Yeah.
try to do as well.
Yeah, and technical issues and things like that. I mean, I bet your team is just so on it that
Mhm.
they're probably few and far between. What could somebody say from the platform that could really annoy your membership?
We have a very global audience. So if the mention of politics
Hmm.
just really throws me for a loop. Nobody,
Just don't even go there.
no, no. There were luckily, at an event we had keynote speakers, and one day, the speaker didn't send me their presentation in advance like I had asked, and I get it. You're updating things the last minute, but at least a couple days before
Yeah,
or the day before.
yeah.
Luckily, I was able to review that presentation before we went on stage, and there was very inappropriate political cartoons on his slides. And
Ooh. Okay, so that's why you want to have a look at them because you're just going to make sure that things are vetted.
yeah.
Okay, final question. Do you find that there is an equal number of, I mean, your membership is probably even more balanced for female than male, is it not?
Mhm.
And
It
so,
is.
how do you have any trouble finding strong female business speakers or a strong female speaker at the caliber that you're after for the main stage?
Main stage is a little bit harder for me to speak to. For IMEX, I do book main stage, and I usually don't have a hard time finding. I think it's just because our industry is actually more female than male. I think I don't know the latest stats, but I think it's either 70-30 or 60-40. But diversity as a whole, not just necessarily male and female, I do see a disparity in really a diversity for our call for proposals because we want to have a very diverse group of speakers. It's just sometimes hard for us to find submissions overall, and it may be where we're looking. It may be the call for proposals isn't reaching the right people, and we need to send other places. But it is something that MPI we're continually looking at.
Okay.
Even this year, we put some new measurements in place to really be making sure that we have a diverse audience. And not
Okay.
audience, but also speakers. So.
I can imagine like 20 years ago, it was probably a lot of middle-aged white guys. No offense to middle-aged white guys, but it probably was. And so I have seen things evolve. And back then, when I was with the Bureau, people would often say, you know, I'm having a hard time finding this caliber of speaker. But I think they're much, much, much more plentiful now, both on the diversity side and on the gender side. So that's really good that to hear you say that it's definitely a consciousness and you're moving more and more in that direction.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Lori, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for letting us inside the inner machinations of MPI and what's going on over there. Is there any final words that you might have for people who might want to apply for next year? When are you going to be putting out the next call for proposals?
We typically will put those out in September, and they'll stay open to the end of October. Best advice is if you don't get picked one year, don't stop applying. It may just not have been a fit. We always try to have a certain percentage of at least new speakers each year and kind of cycle through. So don't give up. Keep submitting.
I like to use the reference of the book back when I was dating. He's just not that into you. Like, don't take it personally. It's just not a fit this time, right?
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. And Wealthy Speaker listeners, if you have enjoyed our podcast today, please give us a review on wherever you're listening, Apple iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play. And let us know. Make sure you subscribe and let us know that you're enjoying these podcasts. And for that, we will say, see you later. Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speaker Show. Please visit speakerlauncher.com for your free Wealthy Speaker audit and visit speakerlauncher.com/podcast for show notes and many more resources to help you catapult your speaking business. See you soon, Wealthy Speakers.